Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Alpha Drop. I'm Jackie Roach.
I'm Rachel Buchanan, and we are creating conscious conversations. Thank you so much for joining us. And today we have our special guest, Kerry Shaw.
Hi.
Kerry, where are you tuning or where are you talking to us from today?
I am in Southern California in my little sleepy surf town right now. So that's where I'm
Okay.
from, Canada, but I live in San Clemente now. So I love
Traded
it.
in the ice skating for surfing.
Exactly. Although I miss the winter, and then I go back to winter. I'm like, oh, I miss the ocean. Then I get to the ocean, I miss get to have best of all the parts. So Mother Nature is bountiful, isn't she?
Yes, yes. But sometimes crypto is not. And we wanted to start off this episode. It's June 15th. We're kind of in the summer months here. And the last month of the crypto markets, blockchain, all of it has just been really scary. It's been shaking out a lot of people. But Rachel, I'd love to turn it over to you. Rachel is our DeFi diva. She's been doing DeFi stuff for a long time. She's into traditional investing as well. And why don't you just kind of go over a little bit of the Terra situation and maybe a little bit with Ethereum and Celsius and just the overall like feel and what's kind of going on and what we're thinking right now.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, a lot of people had a lot of money actually involved in this Terra Luna UST blockchain, $35 billion, in fact. And, it's a unfortunate event that there seems to be an attack that happened and all $35 billion were liquidated in about 3 days, including myself. My husband and I had the down payment for our house that we were saving up. We'd been saving for over a year and a half, and that money was gone in a matter of, before I really knew what was going on, it was already down by like 50%. And that was kind of the start of a kind of cascade of events. The market had been kind of going in a downward direction, for sure, but the market sentiment at that point went from, to extreme fear. So, whenever that happened, I was keeping up with a lot of the influencers, and on every platform, people were saying, please reach out to people if you feel like you are at the end of your rope and destitute, and that all is lost, because so many people, they called them lunatics for the people that put all of their money in Luna. And I know of a handful of people that did. This was not all of my portfolio by any means, but it was a good portion that I was hoping to keep stable because it was in a stable coin. But a lot of people lost everything they had, and there were a lot of people who ended their life because of this situation. And all of the influencers were reaching out or letting their audiences know, please reach out and get help. Reach out to me, giving numbers. There's other ways that you can get support. And I thought that was really lovely to be able to kind of shine the light on emotional and mental health when things go wrong in the market. I don't think that we'll come across anything as detrimental as what happened there. But, since then, there's been a situation with Ethereum and now Celsius, and the market just keeps going down and down and down, and people are getting liquidated and trying to figure out where they are and what they're doing, especially if they're in crypto for the short term. And I think this kind of brings up two opportunities to, bring the ladies in for a discussion here. One, of course, the importance of your mental health and how you react whenever things go sour in the market. And that also kind of has to do with, why you're in Web3. If you're an investor, whether you're a short-term or a long-term investor, or whether you're a creative. And, that kind of brings me to my second point of, there's in a bear market is where the best innovation happens. And, whenever things are going great and everyone's making money, it's easy to not get in the creative flow of reestablishing a foundation, which is a lot of the opportunity that happens in a bear market. When things go down, the creators actually come out and really have the light shine on them, which is really, one of the reasons that we wanted to talk to Kerry and let her tell her story about, why she's in Web3, kind of her tie with both the emotional like mental side of things, as well as how and why she decided to get involved in Web3.
Wow. Well, first of all, I just wanted to say I'm so sorry to hear about all this great loss. It's a lot to manage. So there's a lot of people having conversations together and lifting each other up. And it seems like there's a lot of hope for the market outside of this. So I just wanted to put that out there, that I know that this is really hard time. So I'm feeling yeah. I'm probably a little bit naive because I'm so new to the market. And I just started my first very small portfolio like this week. So for me, it's been coming into this community has been really, I got sort of pushed and pulled into it from a friend who basically said, your work and what you do is speaking about connectivity. And hey, there's all these amazing projects. They're not just art NFTs, they're projects where they're about people coming together and doing something as a collective. I think you'd be really interested. And as soon as I just entered a little bit, it was like Alice in Wonderland, feeling of complete excitement because the technology that is available has so much power in connecting us, and also just creates this environment of innovation. There's just, you can take art in one way, but you can also move it into a conceptual way, and it has more value. And there's just, it's endless what can happen. So once I started meeting people, I met Jackie and started meeting other people the community is vast and very connected. So I've only really been exploring the community for the last, I'd say 3 or 4 months, and it's been open arms, and people are willing to share, are willing to offer their expertise, want to collaborate, not because they're trying to sell you something, but because they actually want to do and achieve something great. So that's, yeah, I'm over the moon about it.
And I know that when you and Rachel spoke, she was just like over the moon. She was like, Kerry Shaw is amazing, and was going on and on and on about you. And, Rachel and I have always connected on like mental health initiatives, and that's where we started this off. And I know that's a little bit of your purpose. Do you want to like just dive into that and how that has been moving you forward in all aspects?
Yeah, well, it really, I had quite of a traumatic event happen when I was in my 20s, and I'm very privy to how mental health can affect a family, a person, and a family and a community. My brother was diagnosed bipolar, a bipolar disorder back in 2000, and it was quick onset. There was no real, there was no talking about mental health either. It wasn't like we understood what medication does. We didn't understand what bipolar was. And so we didn't perhaps look at it as closely as we could. And unfortunately, my brother decided that he needed to peace out. And so he left us. And that left a real void, for one, in all of our lives. And in me, it left me with this sort of question of, what happens to somebody's energy? What happens to not only just the person when they're not with us anymore, but that mark that they leave on you? That energy it exists, and you carry that if you love somebody deeply and know them deeply. And my brother was my best friend, so we were deeply connected. And so that really spawned this searching, and I became an artist because I had to. I didn't know what else to do. I didn't know how to communicate with words. I went to therapy. It wasn't working for me at the time. I was diagnosed with PTSD and was like in full panic mode. And it was like an existential crisis in my 20s, because like somebody can just leave us in that way. And the only thing I knew how to do was to draw and paint, and technology was amazing. I learned how to use a computer, and that started translating into making art that was looking for our connectivity and looking for the linkage between things. So the elements in nature, the movement of a bird, all these things, kind of bringing them together and then looking at them in this kind of meditative sphere of universal GAC, all kind of coming together. It totally made sense to me. And so from my 20s on, I spent my entire artist career outside of my commercial photography career exploring that topic. And now it's like the medium is the message when it comes to blockchain and that kind of interconnectivity. And this, like, once it's there forever, and it's attached to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And that's where Web3 technology really blew my mind when it came to conceptualizing more of my thesis. And all of this, I think this is what we're all kind of looking at, this interconnectivity. And how do we share that? How do we explain it through art? And yeah, I mean, it's endless. Art saved my life, by the way. I'll just put that in there too. It saved my life. So it has the ability to uplift now more than ever. In these times, we can create, we can look to creation, and we can explore how it makes us feel. That's what being able to express ourselves, and for it to be seen. We want to be seen. We need to be seen. We need to be heard. And there are so many ways that we can do that through visual art and music and spoken word and all kinds. Every art form has that ability to connect us.
I love that you said the medium is the message. Why did you pick Web3? Like, what benefits did you see immediately that you recognized as apart from what you were doing in Web2? Was it mostly just a way to be able to connect with different people, or the community? I know you'd mentioned the community. Was there just like one thing that you were like, yes, this is it?
It's multiple levels, because the community actually is the reason I'm pursuing the current project that we're working on. So I have a project I've been working on for years, but it started out as an Instagram project. And Instagram was, in my mind at that time, the perfect platform for this concept of creating an image that keeps on growing, that is attached and interconnected forever, right? So you can scroll through it, and that I was like, medium is the message. This is great, So that that's been developing over many years. And then when I met my now co-founder on the project, we were talking about all kinds of ideas for NFT art projects. And when I showed him this at the end of our call, and he was like, hold on a second, erase everything we just said. We're doing, like, what is that about? And so he really encouraged me to make that happen. And it made perfect sense, because he's working on the human blockchain and exploring that concept. And I was like, well, I'm kind of making like an expressive art chain about humans. So, it all made sense. And really, to level up from an Instagram page, which was just a personal project I was doing, now it has the ability to actually give people access to a larger community, for one, but also when somebody creates a piece, when somebody purchases a piece and becomes part of our community in this chain, I then sit down with them on a one-on-one bespoke moment, and I make the next piece of the chain about them, or whatever it is they want it to be about, but it is telling their story. And every person that comes into this is then part of the larger story. And that is where the technology of Web3, and then bringing this into other places, like into the metaverse, maybe doing some three-dimensional installations. Maybe it can be it can be like, you can scroll on somebody's fashion in a metaverse and look at the whole chain. And there's these endless applications where this simple concept can turn into something that is about this forever and ever connectivity concept, through art, basically. So we're starting with this small one-to-one kind of project, and we're not looking at making lots of money off of this. This is about developing a concept, and hopefully this will grow, but it's really about diving deep into the purpose of all this. And that's where my interest is right now in Web3.
Mm-hmm.
I am so excited for your project. I don't know if we're going to name your co-founder, but I know who it is, and he
Oh
is.
yeah, you can. I would
He
be honored. He's the best.
okay. Well, why don't you give us his name?
Oh yeah, it's Corrales Cachola. He's quite a guru in Web3 thinking, and I really see him as a philosopher and a market. He really brings to market something that is really about driving home the why. He's,
Yeah.
that's what we all kind of, I think it's a lot of what brings our community, the people that we all know together, is it's really about the why. And it's sort of the yin to the yang of looking at like, oh, I just want to make a buck, well, what's the opposite of that? How do we develop something that has really deep roots? And how do we create a map of all of our stories and all of our desires, and bring that together? I think that's what is most interesting.
Yeah, and Corey's great, or Corrales is great because I connected with him sometime last year, and I believe it was his parents were in like a journalism background. And I came from newspapers, so this idea of publishing was something we really connected with. And I know that you have extensive like hands-on production background of processes, and you made a slip, you gave away your age when you said you learned the computer. um but as I was a graphic design major in the nascent days as well. And what amazes me now is how quickly we can create. Like, things that took, I made a post one day about, I a day in college, I was watching a vase render in one of the first Illustrator programs. It took 3 hours and 42 minutes. I still remember the exact, for a vase with no color on it or anything. It was like just the, and now, I mean, and I love what else, one other thing, there's two things I'd love to mention about the Human Blockchain Project, and sort of in the background, what you guys are doing. When you talked about Instagram, we see now like deplatforming is a real thing. Like people lose their entire businesses if they get deplatformed from a social media. So one, the blockchain really protects against that. We can't just erase your work. And then the second thing I really like is, Rachel and I are very familiar with using block scanners like Etherscan, or, looking up someone's wallet address and seeing all the transactions. But what you are talking about and what you're doing is a visual representation of that. I mean, sometimes I go into Etherscan and like, yes, I can follow it, but it's just lines of text and numbers. You're not actually seeing the gravity of all those transactions and what that person was doing and what that whole thing means and what that wallet means. So I think you're bringing a really cool human element to all of this, which it's going to be really exciting. I'm a visual learner, so when I see things in a visual, it's like, oh, I get it now. That's what blockchain is. Like, I think it's going to be so cool when this whole thing comes out.
I'm excited to see it too.
Well,
Yeah.
I love that you're really talking about what you're actually doing what Jackie and I talk a lot about, which is, bringing consciousness into the technology. And, I love that you're going to be sitting down, having a conversation, figuring out what it is about this person, hearing their story, and then using your own creative, abilities to be able to put that into a visual format and connect it with everyone from the past and everyone in the future, and blockchain is forever. So I love the whole concept. And I think that this could be relevant to so many people. And like you said, it could be someone telling their own story, but it could also be gifted to someone, or it could be someone telling the story of someone that they love that's no longer here. So, there's so many ways that this is going to just create such a tapestry and connect so many people. And yeah, I can't wait to see how this all plays out and support you. And we'll have to bring you back on, after you have gotten well under your way, and hear an update about how it's going. And I'm sure you're going to hear so many wonderful stories and connect with so many amazing people.
Yeah, we're really excited. I was just talking to Corey yesterday about how it's like our job now to translate for other people, and as an artist, that is such a beautiful gift, to be able to hear something or feel something. And it's really about, a lot of what my job is going to be while we create this chain is to be present with somebody. And I'm not a trained therapist. I'm fascinated with all kinds of modalities and mindfulness and psychology and language, but I'm not a therapist. But I am a translator, and I am there to be an empath and to create this this story. And also, we're looking at how we can work with people who have really big stories, like people who have changed the world. And how do we create chains of those stories? And how does that bring in community and people and legacy, really? I think a lot of this is about, a really positive legacy. And there can be dark moments in there, and there can be anything that is telling, this story. But and again, I'm translating, so it's really to the eye of the beholder and the creator, those things will come together. But it's a lot of magic, really.
I love that. And Carrie and I met, I think I was speaking at, I think it was the Female Tech Leaders conference. And you and I, we were talking like systems and what needs to change, like right away in the little VR vestibule. We were like, hi, this is what needs to get done. Just had like an
Yeah,
immediate conversation.
instant.
And it's so interesting. I one reason I love blockchain and Web3 and working in this field is that a lot of the technical things you're explaining, how this process is going to work, it's very human. It actually is. It's humans that build technology. So, and we build towards nature. We can't help it. We always are using the laws of nature and the things that we know. But when we met at that conference, Corrales was speaking there too, and he was talking to a DEI initiative. And what you're touching on is something I think that's so important in blockchain is this idea of journalism. We all know the adage, history is written by the winners, but with blockchain, history is written by everyone who is there that hits the mint button. So we can all upload our voice, our story, our version, whoever that is, whatever group that is. And it's just so wonderful to see something actually do it. I think a lot of the reason people get wrapped up in Web3 is they're like, oh, it's actually doing it. It's doing the things we all say need to get fixed. Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, that's interesting. It'll be really fascinating to see how this stuff presents. Again, like you said, you can go through Etherscan or someone's wallet, or even some curated websites of people's work. But I think what we're working on now is how to bring it together so it is something that can be viewed at any time. And it's forever going to be changing and growing. So, these are the next questions that, once it's minted, that's the blockchain, and that's the forever immutability. But then where do we go from there?
I have kind of like a technical question. I'm just trying to think of like how this is all going to work. Are you going to keep the stories in order as you link them together, or are you going to place them as you I guess as you kind of think that they would best be suited in visually, if that makes sense?
I think that's a great question, because we can workshop that to the ends of days, because we're actually being approached by other people that want to. We haven't even launched yet, but like we're like, we got to figure out what this is, and then we're going to do this over here, which really means, to answer your question, that we're going to have to figure out ways to organize lots of this, right? Because I am one person, and I mean, when this grows, eventually working with other artists would be amazing. And that is, another ultimate goal, is to bring like more of this together. But for the first chain, that is just one singular piece, really it's me having to figure out how to attach them together. And right now, if you have a look at the website or the Instagram, it's kind of like this, like everything's sort of floating in this void, this space. It's called Found in Voids. I was found in a void, and I believe we're all found in a void together. That's really kind of the whole concept. And what's bringing us together is sort of this, like, it almost feels like the universal expansion and this kind of nucleus moving. And so when you look at those images, you see a lot of, like, I call it the universal gack, but it's like spray and, what feels like a star, but could also just be like some kind of visual energetic form, so those, it's kind of a hack, I guess, in my visual repertoire, to take all those little bits of gack and kind of just spray them onto the next one. So I think right now I'm just trying to understand, when I mint something, if we present it and then we attach it a little bit differently, is that okay? Or when we put it into a gallery like Spatial, where you actually plug in We're actually working on a spatial gallery right now to test it. When you plug in something that is an NFT, it exists as the JPEG that shows up, of course, when you mint it. But if we're going to have sort of bits of GAC and we're not sure if those are going to interact, I think this is probably where you're headed. When we put them in the spatial gallery and butt them up next to each other, we have to make sure that that is planned out in advance. And I think it really depends on, because I'm just going one by one to start, so we can kind of play with that a little bit. But when the momentum starts to, pick up, and hopefully we can create lots of these, I think that we'll have to figure out how that plays out, because we will be doing more, and perhaps several different chains that are attached in some way. But that's more, I think, installing in a metaverse gallery, or maybe someone wants to hire us to do an experience in a space and it's projected, and we can do all kinds of things to attach things, but for that. But as far as, going into a space and having the actual minted JPEG and how it's laid out in a space, we'll start with just the one-on-one stuff. Yeah.
So this is going to take a lot of your emotion and intention and time and energy. So I would expect that, this isn't going to be a 10,000 mint. It's fairly limited. Do you have a number in mind of which are going to equate to appointments with people and then individual pieces? Have you thought about how large your collection is going to be?
So we are, I can't wait to do this work, by the way. This is like my dream job. I'm making my own dream job. People say that kind of stuff all the time, but if it's my job to hang out with people and dig deep and create art about them, for them, about their grandmother, about their cat, or it's gifted to somebody who is going through a hard time, that, this is an art therapy. I'm not a trained art therapist, but I'm just really excited about doing that work. So yes, it will take time. I've been practicing my entire life creating this technique. So my vast library of images is like, I've spent 25 years taking pictures. Some of them are like on film that have been scanned from me being a child, so I have a vast library to pull from. And the way my brain works is almost a bit manic in the way I can see images coming together and scan through things really quickly. So I'm all Star Trek. You can't see my desk here, but I have 3 screens and 2 computers, and I wouldn't say I'm a techie geek, but I like to have my tools. So I can work live with somebody. We won't finish the piece, but they'll actually get to see while we're doing it together. I kind of forgot where I was headed with this in your question. I'm so sorry, but
I would love to jump in though, because when you say the medium is the message, this is what I have been preaching for years, that NFTs, some people paint with oil pastels, some people use charcoal. This is the medium. You can use code and AI and all these other things, and even just this co-creative process. You just said, you want your tools around you, and they're all like tech things that we're talking about, but you're co-creating with another person. And I think that's beautiful. And I would love to just point out too, I do this a lot, and we all have to, and we all have to say, just so everyone knows, I am not a financial advisor. I am not a teacher. I am not a certified this. I don't have an academic degree in that. But I think what's so amazing in Web3 is people are just going, but I can show up. But I can show up as me, and you can show up as you, and shoot, if we can help each other out, I think that sounds like a good deal. So it's just so cool, all of the things that are opening up from these connections.
I agree. I believe that, maybe not all of us are experts in one field, but I think that so many of us have had several careers, have had maybe several versions of how we create things and how we've collaborated with people, that Web3 allows for that. It allows for us to be many things because it respects all the parts, and we can all pull from each of them and work together. So yeah, that's special to Web3. I've found I've had a really great career, but coming from the advertising industry, I didn't ever feel completely myself because I was always selling myself, as an artist. And it was like a relief button coming into Web3 because people were like, hey, what are you doing? what you doing over there? You know, I wasn't like, oh my God, look at my portfolio, look at my portfolio, look at my portfolio. It was like genuine interest, you know, what are you doing over there? You know, and people are really excited to see what you're up to because everybody's trying to figure out what's going on. And that's part of the like that energetic electricity that's happening.
I love it. Rachel, do you
100%.
want to take us home?
Yes.
Fly the ship home, baby. We're like taking this ship. We're like in outer space right now. We got to go back to Earth, baby.
Oh my gosh. One other quick question. Are you going to be doing any sort of allow list that people can sign up ahead of time to if they want to get involved in your project? And if so, how can we find that and how can people get in touch with you?
Yes. So first I want to say that I am anti-FOMO. I don't believe in FOMO. I know that there are people that may be like, oh my God, I didn't get it that time. There will be more. I don't encourage that kind of sales tactic. So we have a email sign up. It's classic. You put your email in and we'll just let you know when things are released. And we're not going to withhold things and like do last minute midnight launches. It's just going to happen organically. So, and they'll just roll out. They'll be one at a time, basically. I think you did ask me the question, how many we're starting with, and I'm trying to get maybe 5 ready to mint so that we have 5 placeholders for people to then co-create with me. So yeah, that's our website is foundinvoids.io.
Yes, we'll put everything in the description. And it was so wonderful talking with you. Thank you so much for taking the time, Kerry. You are an absolute joy, and it was so much fun to hear about you and your story and what you're up to and where you're going. What are you doing? What are you doing?
What are you doing over there?
Oh my gosh, we covered a lot of ground today, ladies. Kerry, thank you so much. This was wonderful.
This is amazing. Thank you very much for having me. Yes.
Wonderful.
All right.
Thank you all for joining us.
Take care, everyone.
All right.
Bye.
See you next time. Bye.